Blizzard conditions possible. That's wording that I dug through and found in the National Weather Service discussions, and it's no wonder as our storm gets ramped up across parts of Kansas. That wind is going to pick up 20 to 30 miles per hour. We're going to get several inches of snow here. It's going to blow that snow around, reducing visibilities. So a real tough go as we head into Saturday night and Sunday as our storm gets developing here across Oklahoma and Texas. We're going to talk about it in the video today. We're also going to talk about what's ahead. I think this is just the first storm of several to come this month. Low pressure moving east as we head into Sunday. The freezing rain and the sleet and the snow will be breaking out. We're going to dive into a lot closer detail as we go through this video. Arctic high pressure to the north reinforcing that cold air, giving us that wintry mix on the north side of our low. Also some severe weather possible on the southern side of this. That's something to keep an eye on as we head into the weekend. That will continue into Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, and the wintry precipitation continues to march off to the east. Now we've got freezing rain in Tennessee, Kentucky, back into southern Illinois, southern Indiana, with the heavier snow on the north side of this. Keep in mind, anywhere you see sleet or freezing rain, if you go over to that type of wintry precipitation, clearly any forecast snow totals that might be elevated will come down just because of that sleet eating into the snow totals, and that's just going to be a mess when you get sleet that could be as heavy as what some of the models are printing out. Now, here's the thing. Once this low moves by, especially into parts of Kansas where we might go over to some freezing rain or sleet, that also includes Kansas City up to St. Louis, our cold pool aloft moves overhead, and then we quickly go over to snow. And with a lot of instability, especially across Kansas, Missouri, I would even argue further to the east as this cold pocket of air aloft moves through, there could be some thunder snow, and snow rates could approach 1 to 2 inches per hour, and the winds will start to pick up. Now, as our storm moves east, now we're getting the ice, the sleet, the snow moving into parts of West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, even as far north and east as Pennsylvania and Ohio once we get into early Monday morning. So just after midnight, that snow and precipitation moving very close to the nation's capital. We're dealing with some ice across parts of West Virginia, Kentucky, and if you go back, even into parts of Tennessee. But as our low moves east, we're going to drag some warm air north. That's going to transition your sleet and freezing rain over to just plain rain right along the Kentucky-Tennessee border. The same thing for far southwest Virginia and the far southern corner of West Virginia. However, once you get up towards Huntington, you get up towards Charleston and north up toward Wheeling, especially up towards the northern part of West Virginia into Pennsylvania, you're looking at wintry precipitation, and it could be really heavy here too, extending into Maryland, southern Pennsylvania. The new European was pretty aggressive in keeping the colder air across parts of Virginia. This is the GFS. It's not nearly as aggressive with that cold air. The NAM also not as aggressive. The European kind of an outlier here. So I think the NAM wins typically in these types of situations. You do see more of a mixed precip here into parts of central Virginia. But once you get north of, say, D.C., I think the snow is on and it could be heavy at times. And especially as this cold air aloft moves through, once the storm passes and we develop low pressure off the coast, boom, there could be a round of some heavier snow right here into the mid-Atlantic as the precipitation ends, and then we're done with that storm. All right, we're going to dig into all the details right now, and then we're going to talk about what's going to happen as we head into next week, because it could get interesting. We could have a repeat storm on the way. Maybe not for the same areas, but pretty interesting. We do have some snow across the west. This is where it's going to be falling first through Saturday and Sunday. You can see it up into Montana, too. It could get really heavy here as our area of low pressure really starts to get organized once it gets east of the mountains here with some heavier snow back up on the north and west side. This will continue to deepen and move off to the east with a few showers and some lighter snow here across the Pacific Northwest, but the heavy precip again starts to pick up as our surface low develops just to the east of the mountains across Oklahoma. This is a closer look. You can see that snow and that sleet and freezing rain. The sleet is orange, the pink is freezing rain, the green is rain, and blue is all snow. So I think we're in for a decent dump of snow here across parts of Kansas. And as our precipitation changes back over to snow again across central Kansas, I think this could be an area for some really heavy snow in the order of 10 to 15 inches, maybe locally higher amounts. I-70 and north generally across this region would be your rain, freezing rain and sleet to over to all snow lines. So anywhere north of I-70, you're likely going to see more snow than you will mixed precipitation with the current storm track. As we move into Sunday afternoon, now we're into Sunday evening, low pressure moving just across Memphis to the north of that, freezing rain now going right along the Ohio River. So Paducah, we're dealing with freezing rain. North of that, we've got sleet here into southern parts of Illinois and Indiana, and the snow looks likely up here towards Indianapolis, and then back to the west over toward Quincy, Illinois. Looks like we're going to get a pretty good dump of snow out of this. This will continue to push off to the east, and the snow will start to pick up. St. Louis, I think we're going to see a mix of freezing rain and snow, and then on the back end, as the storm pulls away, we'll go back over to all snow, and that will also include parts of Indiana and Illinois, where we're going to get that ice on top of, with snow on top of it. Some areas, by the way, could see up to an inch of solid sleet. I don't see that being impossible with the type of setup that we're seeing. As we head to the east, this is a look at the NOAA model. That's what we're digging into here. Low pressure moving through Tennessee. Now we're diving in a little bit closer here to Ohio, West Virginia. You can see that ice here in the form of freezing rain as we head into early Monday morning. So Monday morning could be really tricky. Now, the further east you go, you're a little bit further out in time, so there's more room for error, but things are starting to come together. And this is, to me, just that classic look of that wedge of cold air down the east face of the Appalachians with low pressure moving to the west, blowtorching, if you will, up into the coal fields of southern West Virginia, far southwest Virginia, and eastern Kentucky. And then the cold air, more dense, more shallow, and more stubborn as you get up near the Ohio River, holding that ice and that sleet in place here. To the north of that, all snow, I think, for Columbus. And there's going to be a sharp cutoff line on the north side of this. So you may go from 4 to 8 inches, maybe even 10 inches down to almost nothing in just a few miles. And you can see that gradient clearly showing up here as high pressure wedges in from the north with that drier air. You get that banding effect going on with the snow. Let's take it out a little bit further. Now we're into Monday morning by 10 a.m. Eastern. We've got the snow going here into the nation's capital, into Richmond. I think we deal more with the mixed precipitation versus all snow, just again, based on what we've seen in the past with this type of setup. You just get too much warm air moving in to keep it all snow here with that warm nose aloft. But up to the north and east, we start to pull in some Atlantic moisture here too, and it's going to be plenty cold enough for all snow, I think, up here in Maryland, Delaware, southern New Jersey, southern Pennsylvania, and then this moves off to the east. So Philadelphia, I think we're going to get some snow out of this. Also up toward Baltimore. We may actually mix over to some sleet, some freezing rain here for a little while, maybe even some freezing drizzle, and then boom, we go back over to some snow, and that will extend down into the mountains of West Virginia, Kentucky. Some of this could get heavier too back here as our low deepens off the coast. You get almost a bit of a deformation band setting up here, and that could extend further east toward the ocean here, near southern New Jersey, Delaware, and then down into parts of even eastern Virginia. Something to keep an eye on. Let's look at some of the totals in this region. This right here, guys, is the official forecast numbers that's coming out from the National Digital Forecast Database. And you can see this is the numbers from the National Weather Service. You're talking about in this area that I'm drawing out. That's the idea of better than 6 inches. Some of the snow is granted falling right now. In fact, if you look at this, you can see this is the snow totals that we're expecting through Sunday before the storm. So even a little bit of snow falling across parts of these regions now, and then once we move the snow in as we head into Monday, you can see those numbers. Some areas showing up here with more than 7-8 inches on the forecast, but look at the modeling here. This is the NAM crushing some areas with 10 to 15 inches of snow. So therefore, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to get a really heavy dump of snow. This afternoon's European, a lot different of a story. It was way colder to the south. So the snow lovers in Virginia are going, the snow is on. I don't know that I would jump on this just yet. I'm not taking sides here. I don't, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just trying to show you the differences that we are seeing in the models. And I'm kind of leaning toward the NAM right now. And I'm also kind of leaning back again toward what the National Weather Service is doing, although they're putting a couple of inches down here toward Richmond, over toward Lynchburg. And again, the ice will be back in here, and we're going to look at that too. Here's a look further to the west at the forecast that's been touched. These are touched numbers. That's why you've got these sharp gradients along the counties as your forecast grid cuts off. But you can get the idea. The heavy snow bands right here across parts of West Virginia, back into southern Ohio, southern Indiana, central Indiana. Again, the further south you go, some of this would likely be mixed, and it may be a ½ inch of sleet and 4 inches of snow and maybe a glaze of ice. So this could be a really tricky forecast. A little bit further to the west across Missouri, we're talking about heavy snow here. That would include St. Louis. You know, it looks like we're going to see somewhere between 6 inches on the south side of town up to 10 inches on the north side. And there could be locally higher amounts in this region too, north of I-70 again in this region. And then once you get up toward Quincy, I think we're looking at all snow. And then back to the west, heavy snow across Missouri. Once you head back toward Columbia, I think we're dealing with more freezing rain and sort of that mix of sleet and snow. The further south you go, especially here across southern parts of the state, we've got to watch out for the ice. So once you get down towards Lake Ozark, Farmington, we're talking about freezing rain. And then back across Kansas City, a lot of snow is likely going to fall here. We could see 8 to 12 inches, especially north of town here. You get north of I-70. Some places may see closer to 15. Further back to the west into Kansas, I think this is an area to watch. This right here is actual forecasted numbers, which is pretty high, and the models are trying to print out even more. So we're talking about a lot of snow across northeast Kansas. So from Topeka, we're going to see a foot of snow or more, and then we're going to get some ice on top of that. The NAM has notoriously been known to be a little bit too heavy on the precip, but look at this crushingness that's going on here. I don't know if that's a word, crushingness. You are just seeing a thump of snow here across central and eastern Kansas with up to 2 feet of snow showing up on the latest NAM. And that's because that cold air aloft that swings through with your trough, and you get that instability. And the National Weather Service is talking about that. They're talking about that instability where there could be thunder snow in this region. And these numbers are clearly reflecting that. And you can see how you could easily see these numbers go a little bit higher. And the key messages, even from the National Weather Service, is this, quote, exact location of heaviest snow still remains uncertain. That includes places like Kansas City and even back into Kansas too, because you could get a slight shift and the next thing you know, you're in it. Either way, I don't care. If you're in this region, you're going to get a high impact, whether it's snow or sleet or freezing rain. The wind's going to be going. Look at the ice showing up across Kansas, 1/4 to 1/2 inch possible here. That spreads east, and this could be really impactful. Some of the models are trying to show up to 1 inch of freezing rain. I just think that's overdone because most of the time they don't do such a good job with predicting that every single bit of water is going to freeze. I mean, that's probably not going to happen, but the forecast is for up to 1/2 inch in some of these areas. Zooming in just a little bit closer, you can see some of those numbers here across northern Kentucky, easily 1/2 inch with up to 1/4 or more of inch of ice possible here across parts of Virginia and then into West Virginia, especially the southern part of the state. The northern part of West Virginia up into Ohio, once you get up into this region, you've seen the snow. So I think that's why, again, you're probably going to be a little bit colder and staying all snow. This is what I'm talking about. This is the NAM overdoing that ice here. But look how much liquid equivalent you're talking about. If I were to take the precipitation totals out, I mean, look at this. The NAM is trying to put down almost 2 inches of liquid equivalent right here along the Ohio River into southern Indiana. That is a lot of moisture falling. So even if you were to cut that in half, you're still talking about 1 inch of liquid equivalent precipitation falling in the form of freezing rain, sleet, or snow, or all of the mixed precipitation, even back into rain. Pretty active here, and a very good chance of snow starting to grow now across Texas, especially on the newest GFS ensembles. The new operational run is even wilder looking. It's getting more snow, and it's moving it a little bit further north. But look back here into Texas. Do you see this sort of this yellowish green? That's a 40 to 50% chance developing north of Houston now too. This teal color here, that's outlining closer to 30 to 40%. That's a 30 to 40% chance of seeing more than 1 inch of snow. Usually this time of year, especially across South Texas, it looks like this, right? So the fact that we're seeing a non-zero chance and it continues to grow, in my mind, is really impressive. And there's still a chance of some snow further to the east. That's the ensemble data, which I like to look at being this far out, but it's not as far away as you think. So we're talking about really the effects starting to be felt across Texas as early as next Thursday. That's 6 days away. And the GFS coming together with the snow, this would put snow into Dallas, into Oklahoma. This will likely shift. If you look at the newest run, this is the one that came out just a few moments ago, really. It doesn't really do anything across North Texas. It doesn't use as much data. Last night's run, it was a much heavier storm. So today, if I had to tell you, I think we're starting to see that flip-flop with the models going back and forth and back and forth. But the idea that something is going to be here, in my mind, is still there. You're going to have a lot of cold air in place. You're going to develop a strong area of baroclinicity. That's that difference in temperature. And now you've got the energy back here. And if it slides across, now you've got to watch for something to develop. The GFS is much further to the north. It's putting heavy snow into Tennessee, into Memphis, into Nashville, Knoxville, east, into Virginia again, into parts of Kentucky, West Virginia, with ice, sleet, freezing rain for North Georgia and North Carolina. Again, we're still so far out on that, but I do want you to see it. This is last night's run of the GFS. It was a lot further to the south. That's why when you look at these potential chances of seeing more than 1 inch of snow, you only see about a 10 to 20% chance here in the purple. So not super high. It's going to snow up here though. Whether it gets you this time or the next, your chances are getting pretty high. All right, that's all I got for now, guys. Thanks for watching. And if you made it this far, I hope it means you enjoy this kind of content. I'm Travis. Thanks for stopping by. A ton of you have subscribed. I do appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. I'll have an update for you tomorrow.